So I got up pretty early to do a different review, and then I noticed that RWBY Volume 8 Episode 3 came out as well, so I guess you guys are getting another review. Hi guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach to Nerd, and in this episode we are reviewing RWBY Volume 8 Episode 3 entitled Strings. This show is a lot darker than the previous volumes. Like this whole volume so far is just pretty dark. And I have such a nagging bad feeling that characters that we love, main characters, maybe dying or have something very tragic or drastic happen to alter the course of this series in my mind and heart and soul forever. And I'm really hoping I'm wrong, but I'm probably not. So let's just jump right in. Team RWBY has made it through the pneumatic tube. So they're now in the military base they were aiming for on Atlas. I'm not sure how Blake got there unless she used her semblance, because everybody else got launched by, I guess, Nora or somebody else pushing the button. So I don't know who got Blake there, but whatever. There's this really cute, funny scene where they ask Penny for directions and she's like pointing all over the place like really quickly and then says, "By the way, my name is Penny." And that was really cute. That was more a response to May, though. I guess May kind of annoyed her a little bit by being herself. And Team RWBY also takes advantage of May's invisibility field semblance to get kind of a move around freely around the base to a certain point. And then Penny then lets RWBY know, with your semblance, you basically can carry our entire group really quickly, to where we need to go. And then RWBY's kind of looking like, huh? And Blake's like, did you just now realize that because she just told you that? I thought that was really funny because, yeah, she did. Simultaneously, we know what happened with Arthur. He's being forced to find a way to take out Penny. He's looking at her, operating system, schematics, all about her, trying to figure out how to either disable her or take her out, or maybe even find a way to change her programming so that she's loyal to Ironwood only, which is probably what's really happening. Yeah, he's being forced to do that, but honestly, from the look on his face, he doesn't really seem to mind. Because he's a prick. So it is what it is. But something I found interesting was, so when they're getting, they're trying to get to the top secret room to try and, reprogram it, get the launch codes down to Dr. Palmadina, they use his credentials, or at least Penny does. And I kept thinking, that's probably not the brightest move if you don't want to be detected. Using his credentials. I mean, if I were Ironwood, I probably would have flagged the system for, everybody I was pissed off at. So anytime those credentials were used, a big alert would come up. And it did. Arthur noticed it and said something to Ironwood. And of course, Ironwood's like, oh, no, he knew it was Penny just because how Arthur was like, well, I guess either the doctor's here or somebody else is using his credentials. And of course, that would be Penny. So, yeah, probably not the best move, to if you want to stay undetected. And that's something that I think happens in so many shows that I've seen in movies. It's like they always use the ID that's going to flag the system. But I will say there's another funny scene that is absolutely hysterical where they're still under the invisibility shield. And they trip this poor guy named Bill, and he's got coffee in his hand. And it splashes across the room and hits one of his coworkers. And his coworker just loses it and says, "Damn it, Bill, read the sign, Bill, read the sign." The sign's like, no eating or drinking in the command center. And he's like, "You're always late. You're always doing this." And it just starts going off. It is absolutely hysterical. And I think it's probably the funniest moments in this entire episode. But I felt really bad for Bill. And then Penny is basically hacking the system with Dr. Palmadina. He's doing it remotely through her. So, basically I can work simultaneously. So while they're hacking the system, Blake, Weiss, and Nora are having a heart-to-heart. Blake's worried about Yang. Well, she's like, I'm worried about Yang and RWBY's fight, which she is, but I think she's worried about Yang because, we know Blake and Yang are a thing. And, of course, Weiss is like, well, sisters fight. And she's more talking about her and Winter probably, because that seems to be, what is happening with these characters. Like the last episode where Penny was talking about, I hate when friends fight. And of course, Ruby thought it was, she was talking about her and her sister, Yang. And so this week it's Weiss and her sister Winter. Everybody's you can see what everybody is feeling and suppressing in these episodes when they have these talks. But what stood out to me was Nora. Poor Nora. She's like, oh, don't worry, I'm sure Yang's fine. And she goes on the list, even John's doing great fighting and Oscar's great. And she goes through this whole list, and then she's like, oh yeah, and Ren, well, I don't really know what Ren is. Every time I think we make progress, he's just and she's like, she doesn't know who she is without Ren. And I like that Blake tells her, when you're with somebody, like, basically Nora and Ren have been their whole life, they become a part of you, but that doesn't mean it's the only part of you. And that's when you realize that Nora, outside of Ren, doesn't feel like she has an identity. All she thinks she's good for is being strong and hitting stuff. And it's sad because Weiss was like, well, now you get to literally find out who you are. And she's like, what is that? I literally hit shit, basically. So it's sad. And I felt bad for Nora. I really did. At the same time, Dr. Palmadino wants Penny to come back to the Amity Coliseum because he thinks it would be safer for her there and they can just, basically initialize the launch codes. And Nora, you can tell she wants to stay with RWBY, Team RWBY, but she's kind of on the fence. But I think she kind of resigns herself to the fact that everybody has that role, and she makes that comment, everyone has a role and do things they don't want to do, basically. And right as they're getting ready to leave, that's when the ace operatives are standing there waiting on them. And every time I see Harriet, I'm gonna be real with you guys, I just want to smack the shit out of her. I really do. I try and I struggle to find something redeeming about this woman, and I can't. And I know that some people like her. I don't. I've never liked her, and I probably never will. She gets on my effing nerves. It's just what it is. So every time I see her in any scene, my initial response is to create a virtual hand and bitch smack her. So yeah, this episode, no different. But they basically try rationalizing with Penny. Then they try to guilt her by saying, well, you took the mating powers, the winter mating powers from Winter, and now she's in critical condition, and you're supposed to be protecting the people. I hate when they're always trying to guilt Penny, but Penny, instead of letting it get to her like she kind of did last week, she was standing up for herself, saying, if Ironwood's not going to save everybody, Mantle, then I don't want to hear, I need to come back and get the artifact and blah, blah, blah. And Ruby's also getting upset. She's like, if we give him, if we get the artifact, what's going to stop Salem from just going out and destroying everything anyway, or getting to the artifact anyway? It's just, which is a reason. It's a valid point. But Harriet and her ace operatives, which sounds like a really bad band, they're mission driven. They're loyal to Ironwood, and so they proceed to start attacking Penny. And Penny doesn't want her friends to be hurt, so she locks them back with a force field in the secret room they were just in. And she tries to take them on all by herself. She uses a little bit of the mating powers, which look really cool. And then she uses her own abilities. And she's doing pretty well, but then, they kind of overwhelm her a little bit. But right before they're getting ready to take her, Nora does her little power up and literally overexerts herself, busting through the door, which I thought was pretty fucking epic, actually. And then she's like, oh, that was awesome, and passes out. And then it's just the girls. It's Weiss, Blake, RWBY, and Penny getting ready to take them on. So Weiss, RWBY, and Blake get knocked off the side of the little bridge they're on. So everyone's going after Penny. And what's interesting is while they're fighting, and the ace operatives are they're not really doing as well, because when Nora busted the door, she kind of knocked them all back. It was pretty epic. So Ironwood wanted to call for reinforcements, but Arthur said, no, I'd rather I have a message for your team. So he tells them to do something. And you can tell right away, Harriet doesn't want to do that. She wants to just go grab Penny. She's the aggressor on that team. But they go with the plan, and it's just really weird. While RWBY is saving Blake and Weiss from falling to their death, Harriet comes at Penny with the sword, and you see the string pop out of the back of her. And then after that, they just basically retreat. And it told me that they did something. I don't think it was a tracking device, but they did something. Maybe the sword had a way of coding her programming or something. Because at the end of the episode, you see Harriet pass, or the team pass the sword over to Arthur, or to Ironwood, and Ironwood passes it to Arthur. And Arthur's like, well, you know what the saying is, if you can't beat them, let them join you, basically. So they're planning something pretty messed up. And somehow that sword is involved. Now, I'm very tired. I've only had 2.5 hours sleep. So if somebody caught something in this episode that I missed, or a better explanation for this, I am ever grateful for you to put that in the comments so we can start a discussion. But I'm still like a little bit confused on what the plan is, but I know it's not any good. And then you have this scene where May basically hijacks one of the ships, and they fly out of the hangar, and Penny decides to listen and go back to Amity Coliseum, where the doctor is waiting, and Ruby and them are just carrying on with their mission. So it was a good episode. I think the fight was probably the most epic, and Nora busting through the door were the two most epic things. And again, my questions on how Blake got there, if she was the last to arrive, like who launched her. I really would like that question answered. I really want to know why Bill, the coffee employee, is not fired, because apparently he's late every day and he does this all the time. So they tripped somebody who apparently didn't need to trip, because he does this on the regular, to the point where everybody in the command center was cussing him out, and it was absolutely hysterical. What's going on with Team Yang? They weren't in this episode at all, so I want to know. They're chasing Oscar with the flying, Grim. I really wanted to have a little bit of that in this episode, but we didn't see them at all. It was all focused on temporary Team RWBY this week. So we have to wait again until next Saturday to see what's going on with that. And, just overall, what's the plan with Penny? Because everybody needs Penny. And Penny and Oscar seem to be the two really important characters that definitely should not be with Ironwood, or, with Salem, with Cinder, or anybody else. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to play out in our heroes' favor. So our huntresses and hunters are going to be very unhappy this volume, because it's pretty dark, and I think it's going to get a lot darker, and it's sad, but exciting. But that's my opinion. I want to know what you guys think, so please leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next on the nerd ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.